Hello, and welcome to episode 108 of The Worst People We Know. I'm Sean.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Jeff.
Happy Monday after Thanksgiving, guys.
Whew, I am full of turkey.
Yeah, I bet you are. I am not full of turkey, I don't think.
Full of field roast?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm doing like a Friendsgiving in LA, or I did, depending on your sense of time. And I'm not quite sure what's being served, but I think it's a lot of gluten-free and vegan items, so that should be exciting. That's what
classic core booty fuel.
Most people look for in Thanksgiving feasts.
I mean, that's what the Pilgrims ate. That's what the Indians ate. Field roasts.
I will tell you, even though time is a flat circle and this hasn't happened yet, that I cooked a delightful turkey to perfection.
Ooh.
Oh,
and
wow.
everyone, after biting the first bite, they literally stood on their chairs and applauded me.
Wow.
For how masterful it was.
They were thankful for your amazing cooking.
Yeah, I think they were. They're like, tell you.
Perfect.
All right, you turkeys, enough joking around. In the news this week, we're going to discuss Uber's decision to sell off its driverless car business. I'm assuming so they can hire the driverless cars back as contractors at some point in the future.
Yep, that's correct.
Fleeting tweets, updates on the Boeing 737 MAX. Check out episode 24 from Blast from the Past TWPWK episode if you want a little bit more information on the 737 MAX, but we'll give you the current status of that plane when we talk about the story. Apple making some concessions to its App Store developers. We've talked about that in the past. Some fights between developers and Apple on the fees they charge in the App Store. And another entry into our series of weird COVID market disruptions, COVID impacting the market for recycled paper.
That's a weird one.
That does sound weird.
Yeah.
What were the other ones? Like rental cars?
Refrigerators and
paper,
freezers.
Yeah.
Paper
Toilet
towels,
paper.
refrigerators, and freezers.
There's
Paper
still
towels.
We actually looked for Clorox wipes today at the pharmacy, and there's none. I mean, I'm currently in South Carolina for visiting my girlfriend's family for Thanksgiving, and still none. Still none here, still none in Florida, still none in New York. I don't understand where all the Clorox wipes went for the last 10 months, but they're all gone from everywhere.
Somebody's got them in a basement, a bunker.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it's like a business that was going to reopen, ordered them all, and they're sitting in an empty basement, like storage basement there because they've
like
closed
a Halloween
or something.
store.
It's something like that too. Yeah.
Well, as we get I like to nerd out on a good supply chain conversation, and I was reading about the supply chain associated with this vaccine that presumably we're all getting, hopefully within the next 6 months.
Yeah.
That sounds like a complete effing nightmare. If we can't figure out paper towels, I don't know how the hell we're all going to get vaccines.
Don't worry, the army's going to come and shoot it into us. It'll be fine. They've got some long
I hope
weapons.
so. Door to door. Have you read anything about that, Sean?
No, I mean, I'm an anti-vaxxer, I think, as you guys know, so I don't plan on getting the Trump vaccine.
Well, you love Jesus. I get it.
I already got the Russia one. It's going pretty well. My left
pretty
arm
good.
doesn't work anymore, but
you just got to put it in H.
I've paid attention to a little bit of it. It seemed like the Pfizer one seems like a nightmare just to move it around because it's got to be negative 70 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
Then I think the other two that have come out since are a little bit easier to move around. But I've also heard then the story is like, how will it be distributed? So in my mind, not that it doesn't matter, but I'm just thinking of like, when do I have to pay attention to it? Isn't for like another year. Yeah. Like that's when I'll have to be like, okay, CVS or Kaiser Permanente, tell me when to come in and inject me.
So what I've read is there's 3 vaccines that are, basically in line, ready to get approval. Mm-hmm. There's the Pfizer one. There's whatever the one that was the Boston biotech company was doing it in conjunction with somebody else.
Yeah.
And those are both of the ones that are kind of American companies with 90%
USA,
plus.
95% USA.
95% good.
Then
yes. Except you have to keep it at an incredibly cold temperature that most freezers are not capable of doing.
Is it really? It's
we're not sure we can produce enough dry ice.
Negative 70.
It's really negative 70. You're not
Celsius.
exaggerating.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That is the temperature has to be transported at. So they say like logistics wise, they'll probably ship that to big cities because there's infrastructure for it. Pfizer's worked out like the technology to move it and transport it and store it. But then the second one, we should probably figure out the name of that company if we're going to keep talking about it. Their
the
vaccine
third one was
two.
AstraZeneca, right? AstraZeneca.
Yes, I believe that's correct.
So that's the non-American one, and it's only like 70% effective.
Right? No. That's the Oxford one. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oxford.
Yeah, there's three because there are three.
Yeah, there are three. Right. Oxford. Yeah, that's the one that's 70% effective is AstraZeneca, I think.
And that one has like you can just refrigerate it. That one's like normal.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so you'll have that like as a beer, like an IPA version of the vaccine. So it doesn't matter that it's 70% effective. You'll drink like 10 of them, and you'll be more.
They'll just put it in the water supply, basically.
Yeah, it's just good. So Pfizer's drug needs to be stored at -70 Celsius, as Sean said, because we live in America, -94 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty cold.
Wow.
And like I was like, okay, that sucks. Like,
yeah, it's going to turn you into.
We'll figure it out.
What was that character from Batman? That Arnold
Mr.
Schwarzenegger
Freeze?
was. Mr. Freeze. It's going to turn you into that, I think, when you get it.
Okay.
Like.
No, what you do is you thaw it and then dilute it, and then once you thaw it, I think that it's good for like
Moderna.
a day.
Moderna is
Not-
the other one.
Moderna.
Oh, Moderna. That's correct. Yeah. So here's the things that aren't cool. Once you get it, like, or once they make it, it only lives like 10 days, even if you do everything right.
Yeah.
And then it comes in like a suitcase case where there's like 500 doses, and you can only open that like twice a day for a minute.
Why are you opening that anyway?
To take one
To
out.
like, because you have to take them out, and you have I only have enough to make a batch for half of them, and so you're opening it and then you're putting it back in. You got to ship them in dry ice, and then like the other
just
thing
like
that's
Omaha
like a major...
steaks, and presumably Trump steaks. That's probably why the dry ice. Trump steaks is looking for a place to offload to dry ice.
Yeah, so you got to deal with it. So it's not like, oh, we need millions of these things. It's fine. We'll just ship them off to Utah and we'll stockpile 1 million of them. It's like, no, 10 days, mother flipper. Yeah. Like you're gonna get this many, and then that's what you got, and then you got to come back 28 days later and get another shot.
Sounds like a job for Jeff B from Seattle.
Yeah,
that guy knows logistics.
He was mentioned in the article I was reading, but he was
you
mentioned
think
in the
Trump
context,
would bring him in?
No, he was mentioned in the context of they were profiling like the county that Reno, Nevada is in, and the guy's like, yeah, it's really hard we only have $74,000 to prepare for this, and I can't hire anyone with that because Amazon keeps hiring anyone that's any good.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bezos would probably have some guy show up to your house in track pants or something with, your package and also a vaccine. It would, if you're comfortable with that, it'd be great.
You're wearing like a doctor outfit from the Halloween store or something.
Yeah. I just took a picture of the vaccine. I left it on your porch.
It was delivered.
Make sure you get it into your body in the next 2 minutes.
Yeah. All right. Well, on to other things. So other technologies that may not work. This is a story about Uber and autonomous vehicles, and this kind of it's a special place in my heart, Uber and autonomous vehicles, because I live in San Francisco. Uber's in San Francisco, but I used to live in Pittsburgh, and Uber
That's where all the nerds
destroyed the autonomous vehicle department of CMU because they went in there with a partnership and then hired all the professors away and basically took all the talent out of the department.
Yeah, Carnegie Mellon had like a serious autonomous vehicle department, and they literally went in there, started the headquarters for that division of Uber, and they hired everyone away, like almost literally hired everyone away.
And we had quite a few roboticists and people that would work in that kind of vein of work, working at Four Moms, and a number of them went to go work for Uber ATG.
I mean, it's
Advanced
a pretty
Technologies Group.
It's a pretty sexy job, especially in Pittsburgh, where your options are Heinz digging coal or Uber autonomous driving, and so. Yeah, I get it, but it sucks now, especially that they've kind of given up on it completely.
You can also make steel. Don't talk
point.
down to us.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or you can be a football player. That's an option.
So the big news is that Uber is like, we caused a lot of problems with this. We basically stole an entire respected academic institution's autonomous driving department. We got sued for like $1 billion from Google for stealing trade secrets. It was a nice run. Let's sell this thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
the part of that I kind of give them a little bit of credit for is like Travis Kalanick was the Uber CEO that started this whole thing and was the aggressor in all of those situations. And now that they have maybe a more reasonable, more stable CEO, they're kind of like backing off a lot of these like more crazy ideas. Especially this one isn't crazy, but I'm sure it was sucking up a lot of their resources. And so it's not really the same company doing this, but it is literally the same company doing this. So, there's that.
Yeah. So last year they raised Uber specifically for the autonomous driving group, raised $1 billion, valuing that group at a $7.25 billion valuation. We've talked about some of the things that are interesting and problematic about this. Is one, Uber's main business that like exists and operates today doesn't make money. So it's not like they have this big cash cow thing. It's just like, we'll just pay this in forever the next 20 years, right?
That's why they started Uber Eats, though, for the cash cow part.
Yeah, that's right.
What is this even more money?
It's perfect. It's their most profitable business, which loses money on every ride. But other people obviously have been working on this. Lyft is working on this. Waymo's working on this. Apple theoretically is working on this. And so Uber basically said, hey, we have something of value. We don't actually need to be the one funding this. Most other people have gone in with a partner who has deeper pockets. Cruise, Lyft, all of them are like, has a partnership with either Toyota or Volkswagen or, GM. And so Uber is looking to sell a significant portion of this group and then believes that they'll still retain ownership of any of the technology there, but they'll also be able to license autonomous driving technology and still leverage it for their group in an attractive way without bankrupting the company. So probably an adult move here.
Yeah, as easy it is to shit all over them for it, especially because they were so, they made some audacious claims about autonomous driving. It's probably the right move. It kind of makes sense. And I do think autonomous driving, everyone keeps saying, like, when's it going to be ready? And it's never really going to be, like, quote unquote ready. It's not like Tuesday, all cars can be autonomous. Like, that's not how it's going to work.
Just trying to figure out the right font for the website.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to like roll out over probably a 5 or 10. I mean, it's going to literally roll out over a 5-year period, if not a 10-year period. Where half the people are never going to be ready for it. Legally, it's going to be legal in some states and not others, cities and not others.
The rollout might be 5 to 10 years, but like location by location, and then the rollout across areas will be generations, lifetimes.
And some of them will still have drivers in them, some of them won't. Yeah. So like it is going to be such a slow thing that Uber, like let's consolidate consolidate some of this research and let them figure it out.
Uber doesn't care. Like the car you get into, it's like they'll buy. I mean, they don't even buy the cars, right? They're just back to my joke at the beginning. They contract out everything. So why wouldn't they contract out the AV or the AV autonomous vehicle part of it? There could be multiple providers, and if one of these companies gets big in Arizona, and it's like, okay, well, this is the one that we approve, and this is what's working everywhere, and Uber's not part of that, then they wouldn't be able to operate in that city. So it makes sense. Like the way their network works, like they should be indifferent to however
like if Tesla figures it out, they'll just start buying Tesla.
Just for clarity, you're predicting big AVs in AZ?
Yeah, big AV. I mean, Arizona has shown they're big
pro
AV.
AV. AZ is pro AV.
I mean, they're the big unit played there for a number of seasons, so you'd imagine that they would go big.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but it does seem like a good idea, and the whole thing. I honestly, at this point, we've had these discussions a lot on this podcast. We've also had them off this podcast. and people are like arguing who's going to quote unquote win. This is going to take a long time, and no one's probably going to win. They're probably all going to have some variation of this for years and years, and then eventually we'll have actual driverless cars that doesn't have a steering wheel, but that will be so far down the road that we'll see it coming.
I know the exact answer of who's going to win. I know exactly what's going to happen, and if you're interested, I am going to tweet about it this week from the TWPWK handle.
Oh.
But you better catch it because it's going to be a fleet.
Oh, a fleeting tweet.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
nobody can call me on it if I'm wrong.
If you don't know what a fleet is, that happens to be our second news story today. Twitter has introduced disappearing tweets called fleets, which are now available to everyone. They're quite literally the same exact thing as a Snap story or a Instagram story.
Yeah.
But
they look like tweets, but they're not tweets because it's like a picture of a tweet.
Well, that's the thing. It's a picture. It's like you can take a video. It's like an Instagram story.
Yeah.
I do like the name. I have to say, Fleet, I think that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. You do wait till next October when Fleet Week comes to San Francisco.
Oh, man.
It's going to, there's going to be so much
marketing
fleets about Blue Angels. Whew.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's, as someone who has kind of ramped up his Twitter use, like I used Twitter 0 for a long time, and now I'm launching the bubble board and Folio and all these things. I'm trying to like figure out Twitter because there's some degree of value in a Twitter presence. I've been using it on easily a daily basis just to like check news or whatever, especially around the elections. But it's annoying. It literally looks like the Instagram ones. They're at the top. Yeah. They take up space. I don't want to see them. I don't care about them. And I just want to scroll, and it's like takes up 15% of my screen.
The idea is perfect. Like not how they executed it, but the idea of like a disappearing tweet.
True.
Just keep it within the
why isn't it just a tweet?
The structure you've already designed, and have a small little like something next to it, like how they have the verified symbol. Have like something if it's permanent, or maybe nothing needs to be there, but like something to indicate like, okay, this is a fleet. It's going to go away. Follow it. Maybe those prioritize on your feed or something. But yeah, all they're doing, I guess I never use Snap all that much, so I didn't notice it. But then my understanding is that is what came to Instagram, and they're all just converging to be the exact same platform. And Twitter was really the most different of them, and it seemed like I didn't personally like it, but a lot of people like that format. Now it's kind of strange that it's moving back to
I would
looking like Instagram and Snap.
There were some pretty funny jokes about it for a while, and then people took it too far. But like people would like Photoshop in Excel with like stories. And they're like, they're all coming out with this now. And it did seem like that, especially because, I agree, Sean. Like, you have the perfect platform for it. Just a tweet that expires. Like, that's it. You're done. Why does it have to be this stupid circles at the top? That it literally...
They hired the guys that used to work at Snap and Instagram. And they're like,
we know how to do.
We'll make it for you.
Yeah.
I just wish I knew what Trump was going to fleet next.
Has he fleeted yet?
I haven't seen a Trump fleet.
Oh,
I'm unsure if he knows that they exist.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't know.
Maybe
how to,
he'll concede in a fleet.
And then, it's part of him because of all the stuff he says is inflammatory. So it would disappear. But I wondered if I know like Twitter, if you say you tweet something, somebody will get in trouble. A celebrity athlete, something. I guess all like celebrity will get in trouble. They'll tweet something. They'll eventually delete it, but it's there because there's just so many things that are going through recording.
The back machine,
what they've done. And I wonder if that's part of it, like if a fleet could really work that way. Like once it's there versus if it's inside a picture, it makes it a little bit harder to decipher or save. I guess you could just take that picture, but it's bigger. It's an image, not text.
Well, I think people have already figured that out because people do delete tweets, and because of that, people will screenshot the tweets and then tweet that screenshot out. Like it looks like a reply, but it's actually a screenshot, so that once you delete a tweet, if you reply to it, it won't be there anymore if someone deletes it. So I think even with this, someone will screenshot it. Although I guess maybe it's a different format, so it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just think of how good it would have been for the last 4 years. He would get angry instead of all caps, just an old man holding a phone in front of his face and just yelling at the box in front of him. Why is this happening?
I think the feedback's not there for him. Like
True.
Maybe. What does it do? Like I never liked that. If you watch like Instagram Live or Facebook Live, it shows like if people are hitting
little
the
hearts.
heart button or the smiley, like
it
floods the screen with that. But I don't know. Like I think he needs because he would love that, right?
Positive affirmation.
But he doesn't get it. There's not an instant feedback loop there. But who knows? Maybe we got something to look forward to. Obama did podcasts in like Netflix series. Trump might just become like a Instagram stories fleet video guy.
Well, maybe this will be Biden's thing. Biden will be a fleet guy.
Ooh.
That's
Fireside fleets with Biden.
Fireside fleets.
Fireside fleets. Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah. So,
hey, Sean,
maybe a mistake, maybe not. Not as much of a mistake, maybe, as our next story.
Yeah. The ill-fated Boeing 737 MAX. We've talked about this before. It has been grounded for, I should have looked back, but I'd say like 2 years. Is that?
It's at least a year. So two very easily.
October, or maybe the two crashes were around like October of 2 years ago. It's been grounded for a while now.
How long have we been podcasting?
Like at least a year and a half, I think.
Yeah. So it's in there.
Yeah. Oh, episode 24. Yeah. Check it out.
March 19th, 2009. Or 2019.
That's when we released the episode.
No, that's the FAA temporarily grounded the 737 MAX.
Over a year now.
Yeah, over a year.
Now it's been cleared to fly by the FAA. I guess they've satisfied them enough. The problem with this, I think, is the when we talked about it before, the issue wasn't so much like Boeing; it was Boeing and the FAA.
Yeah,
and how close they were, like basically working in cahoots, not doing a good job at certifying the plane that it was airworthy. Overlooking things, basically letting Boeing was going through a process where they were self-certifying the plane with some FAA oversight. That didn't work out well. So now to see like FAA is like, oh, now everything is okay. I'm not sure that
makes you feel a whole lot better.
Like it doesn't mean anything. My understanding with the plane itself, like it's not. The basic issue is they didn't want to redesign the way the plane looked.
Yeah,
but they wanted to fit bigger engines on it. And because of the way they've done that, it's not it's just not the way you would design an airworthy airplane. Mm-hmm. So they came up with software fixes to try and make it fly properly. And then the software was glitching sometimes, thinking the plane was going into a stall and basically driving the nose into the ground, and pilots couldn't overtake it. So I think what they've ended up doing is essentially fixing that system, but the plane itself is still not, it's not necessarily made to fly like that. You would, if they were to go back to the drawing board, they would come up with a better design, but that would take a lot more time, a lot more money. So it's interesting that they're clearing them to fly, but I don't know like what airline's going to rush back and be like, yep, we're flying the 737 MAX. Like who, especially with air travel struggling so much, who's going to be like, yep, this is what we're going to bet our future on, this plane that's crashed twice and has now been approved by the agency that approved it before it crashed twice.
Well, that's kind of, I don't know, to do the technical review of all those things. Basically, what was it? Airbus released a new, whatever, 320 MAX or whatever their comparable one to 737 is. They basically took an existing plane, put a bigger engine on it. It was more fuel efficient and could fly faster or further, more efficiently. And then Boeing wanted to do the same thing, but the plane, the 737, wasn't high enough off of the ground. Right. So the bigger engine quite literally wouldn't fit. Airbus just happened to have higher landing gear or whatever it was.
Because their plane was designed like in the last 2 decades or something.
Yeah.
The 737, I think, is from like the 60s.
So what they did was they took the bigger engine and they basically shoved it up into the wing so that the balance of thrust was off, and they had to compensate for that.
If you look at like pictures of it, you can see the engine is basically in front of
Right. Right.
The
And
wings on
high
these
up
planes because
yeah.
there's not
Right. And so, but the two
and they almost scrape on the ground. That's the one thing I loved about like 737s when you see them going around. It's like they're dragging on the ground.
Literally, well, that just looks cool.
So,
like a
so
low
did
ride.
they change any
Stealthy.
of that aspects of it, or they just
No!
fixed the software?
They
Well,
fixed
no.
the software.
But here-
That's all they did.
But here's the thing: the two crashes only really happened because they had this weird thing where they had two sensors to solve for this issue, or they have one sensor to solve for this issue. They have two of them on certain aircrafts, but that
you
is
could pay for the upgrade.
somehow a payable upgrade, which makes
that's what you would do.
no goddamn
If you don't want to
sense.
die, you give us more money.
exactly.
It's pretty simple.
So it should be
Feels like they should
pretty.
charge more for that.
It should have been. It shouldn't have happened. Basically, like the crashes shouldn't have happened. It should be
maybe the
solved
plane
in
is-
software easily.
It never would have happened. Nobody ever would have
Right.
questioned the plane. But now it's like because they tried to save a few bucks or make a few extra bucks on it, now nobody's going to trust that plane
Right.
forever. Like,
Well, it does have one advantage over every other plane. To my knowledge, and although this was not in the article, there have been no confirmed cases of somebody getting COVID on a 737 MAX so far.
Very good point.
So,
yeah, they're safer in that.
You know,
in that way.
COVID-free planes.
If I was running the marketing department, that's the
COVID-free
first ad I'm running.
So the interesting thing is all these airlines, these planes are just sitting in like deserts and other places, like on these big tarmacs,
Yeah.
decommissioned, kind of boarded up. Like they're, who knows, like,
So they're real cheap.
like-
If anyone wants to start an airline, is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but like it's just having that mothballed for like, you had a
right.
airplane with a questionable safety record and now it's coming and now it's like, oh, we'll just mothball this thing. It's designed to like run for like 22 hours a day.
Yeah, it just adds another
Like
variable.
it just like sits there for 2 years. Like cause they're going to slowly roll these things out. Like,
yeah.
there's nothing that seems appealing about this. I don't know what deals like what outs the airlines would have. I'm guessing not much because if they lose Boeing, like there's no incentive for that.
Yeah,
Like,
no
United
one wants
loses Boeing,
that.
they buy a bunch of planes from them, and there's then no competition, and a loss of or a supply shortage. So
I
You
will
think when they park these things out in the desert, they just left the keys in them? Or?
yeah, like construction equipment.
Probably, yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, it's a good thing that there's none of these things parked in Long Valley in the 80s
planes-
because we'd have been flying around in
I don't
737s
think
left and right.
They don't have keys, right? Like,
No.
I mean,
I
even
don't
the
think they have
doors, like, I
keys.
don't-
You know how many times a pilot would lose the keys?
oh,
They'd
yeah.
be screwed.
There's definitely no like ignition key, but I'm saying like even the doors, like the hatches and all that. I don't think they're locking that and unlocking that. All the baggage attendants.
Well,
and people are, like,
obviously,
You think there's a fob?
there's an internal like switch, whether or not there's like a key to open it for
a lock. So you think it's just like a lock, and then there's maybe a key fob that the pilot has, and he can toot toot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something that does what. Well, I mean, that's
Remotely
how they do it.
unlocks a
Have you ever
panic
seen
button.
them with the bathroom? The flight attendants have a way of like
Oh, that's
pulling the lock open on the bathroom because
Yeah,
can
they
lock
flip
the
open
bathroom
the
from
thing
outside.
and pull the lock from the other side of the door.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Well, no, they
To
have
start
they
the
do it
plane.
from the there's a thing in the top.
To start
No,
the
But I
plane,
would
it's the
assume that
same
they're
way.
yeah. you just get a hanger and you stick it in the
Yeah.
737. Hold on, I gotta jimmy this one. Hold on.
Yeah, I as tragic as it is the way this happened, it all sort of makes sense, right? It's everyone had a vested interest in the 737 MAX working as opposed to Boeing building a new plane. They all had the tooling, they all had the ramps
training,
were all
they
the
did-
training, all of these things were all fitted towards the 737 because it was like I think it's one of the more popular or the most popular
Yeah.
airplane in at least the US fleet.
There's like the Max is like there's at least Series 900 is they're running out of numbers. I think that's why they called this one the Max
Oh,
because they
okay.
went from like Boeing 737-1 or -100, but it was like there's been like nine
they'll
generations.
just start
10
doing what
generations
Tim
of
Cook
these.
did. This is the new 737.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know. We went to
This
Roman
is
numerals at one
737.
point. We haven't
It's the
gone to letters
2020
yet.
version of the 737.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's by far like the most used airplane worldwide.
So-
Just because it's been around so long.
Right. And so everyone wanted it to work. Like everyone wanted it to work, including the FAA. And that's probably why they kind of, didn't
Yeah.
look too hard. And now, to your original question, like, can we even really trust this given it's the same two companies or people or organizations saying that, oh, no, it's good now. Don't worry now. we fucked up before, but it's good now. I think it probably is good now. I'm not dying to get on one anytime soon either, but we'll see how it goes.
That's the thing. I don't think I'm not saying that there's anything that they're doing sketchy now necessarily, or trying to. Obviously, they're getting a lot of scrutiny, so I doubt they're trying to come up with some quick patch and get it back out and be like, oh, hopefully this works.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's fine. It's just like the reputation of the two organizations, FAA and then Boeing, and then with all the travel, with the lack of travel, I would think it is beneficial COVID for this. There would have been airlines would have been struggling with trying to manage their fleets potentially, and now they're struggling in a different way of trying to figure out where to store all of them because they're storing more planes than just the 737 Maxes. But I just don't think it's strange. It'll be interesting to see how that comes back out because nobody's traveling that much, and it doesn't seem like it's the
you're saying
the thing that's going to resurrect the travel industry after COVID.
No,
but maybe people won't care and nobody will pay attention to it and be happy to travel, and it quietly goes on. But I would think the first airline that launches it, that's a very delicate rollout.
Right. It's well, if it's a United or someone big like that, they're like, yeah, you're flying on a 737 regular. And then you get there that day and they're like, no, it's a Max. We changed it. Sorry.
Sneaking it in.
We had a Max lying around. I hear you got a lot of them lying around, actually.
You each get your own plane if you want.
Well,
your own row.
If they did that, if they
maybe
said,
they'll do something like that. Yeah.
If they said, no middle seats or you get your own row, I'm in.
There you go.
I'll fly a Max all day.
That's a pretty good solution to the problem.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
That's how you fly it for a while. And you're just you know what? I haven't died on this yet. Fine.
It's worth it.
Maybe the first year.
Spirit, yeah, exactly.
It would be like Spirit Premium or something. No middle seat, but they're Boeing 737 Maxes. So,
perfect. Other things that have gotten cheaper these days, the Apple App Store. So, we talked about this. The Apple App Store generally charges all apps and all subscriptions and any money running through the App Store a 30% tax, basically. They take 30% of everything. The company or developer gets 70%. So the Epic Games, the maker of Fortnite, just started kind of a big hoopla, as well as Basecamp, who made that email client. Hey, we talked about that in the past too. They were all bitching about it. We talked about this. I think we made the prediction they were going to come to some agreement, and then they did. Do we have a running list of things that we tell companies they should do, and then they do?
We should get
I fleet about them every week. we have been right 100% of the time. Just check our fleets.
Yeah, good point.
We should keep a list of these things.
We really should. It seems like a couple of them.
I'll just put it up next to this map that I have of states that don't listen to us anymore because we've insulted their population.
Perfect.
Hey, Arizona was getting some good plugs today with the AV. So
they were.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna win them back.
We might get them.
So Apple has now reduced the cut to 15% for, quote, most developers starting January 1st. Most developers is an interesting term because it is technically most developers, but it is not at all the majority of their revenue. Any developer...
Really?
What's that?
Really? How's that work?
Any developer that earns less than $1 million in revenue per year is eligible for the price cut, basically.
This is like really, the Republican tax cut.
Exactly.
It really is becoming a tax. So it's like
it's quite literally the same idea where
income brackets.
You're cutting, you're cutting for the quote unquote poor and you're not cutting for the rich. So according to an analytics company, Apple doesn't release these numbers, so they're not definitely true. But these analytics companies have a pretty good idea of what's going on based on their clients that run all their revenue through these companies. So this company, Sensor Tower, estimated that 98% of developers would be eligible for the 15% cut, but most developers generated most developers, meaning that those 98%, generated just 5% of the Apple App Store revenue last year.
Yeah.
So basically 95% of the App Store revenue is staying put and 5% is getting cut. Mainly because like most of the revenue is generated by massive companies making over $1 million.
So it didn't really solve the conflict.
Not for Epic Games, no.
Because the people that are upset with it are going to be the ones that's like,
right.
That's their big business model, and that's like their core business, and you're essentially getting, it's the same thing if you were doing business in some country and one was giving you a better tax rate, right? Like they're
well, I think it's definitely a step in the right direction, and I definitely think the people who were kind of quote unquote most hurt by this, like it's the same thing as taxing the rich, right? It's hard to feel bad for the companies that are making billions of dollars. Like Epic Games, maker of Fortnite, they're a $1 billion company or whatever. Like, I mean, they're making a lot of money. And so they know what they're getting into. They could possibly start their own app store thing if they wanted to. It's hard to feel bad for them. At the same time, I think that is still a fight that's going to be had. But it is nice, like, if I make an app, that Apple won't be taking 30% of it, because that is a kind of a ridiculous amount of money for them to take.
Sure. If I make an app, they will, because
it'll make way more than
$1 a year, obviously. Yeah.
Well, you need to separate out your app genius into a bunch of different smaller companies.
That's a good point.
There you go.
They'll split my apps into 4 ways. That's how Trump would do it.
Split
no. This is that revenue went to my app consulting arm, which is owned by my daughter and sons.
But I guess, this doesn't, it's weird. I guess maybe it's not, it seems like it's in response to criticism of their fees, but it doesn't address the actual criticism. And I understand from a developer standpoint, it'll quiet most of them. But even from a user-based standpoint, if these companies actually win people over, like the revenue is essentially a metric or like a proxy for users. So a company like, even if Epic is a big company, nobody's going to feel bad for them, they could win over their user base and say, hey, this is unfair. And they've still got, like, from a democratic standpoint, they've got, then it's all these users that are upset at Apple versus the developers. I don't think these smaller developers, it's good for them, but I don't think they'd ever make a,
are the companies allowed to charge more on the App Store than they do off the App Store? Probably not, right? Apple probably slaps them for that.
That's a good question. I don't know if that's allowed.
Because like
they might slap them for that.
Yeah, in like the DoorDash like restaurant delivery world, they actually
they can't
DoorDash
charge
and stuff,
give a discount off of it, right? Wasn't that what Epic got in trouble for?
Oh, that they gave a discount on their other site if they didn't do it through the App Store, which would be effectively the same thing. I think you're probably right.
Yeah, but I'm not totally sure if that was because they told people that. Like basically Apple doesn't want you telling people that through if you access
That's true, because say I have which is
Netflix,
also kind of that was one, right? And I think Netflix just pulled, or that was one of them, right? Netflix
was allowed to do this. Yeah.
Right. You could sign up. You could have always signed up for it outside of that, but I don't know, like the things that really come out of the App Store to begin with.
The one of the things that was really the issue here was Apple. You can sign up either way. Apple doesn't mind. But if you have a sign up off of the App Store, you also have to have a sign up on the App Store.
Okay.
And you can't point people to the off the App Store link so that they can sign up there and then log in through the App Store. That was enforced for every company except for a few, Netflix being one of them. And so
Amazon and Netflix. And so they are allowed to have only off of the App Store signups, and they don't have to have an on the App Store sign up.
So that's why when I buy something through Amazon, Apple doesn't get 30% of that, because I feel like they would be much better off if Apple could get 30% of Amazon's revenue for iPhone-based purchases.
Would be.
Well, they get 30% of Google's, so you might as well get all of them.
What's Google's revenue?
But
it's still a lot.
I don't know what Amazon's margins are on things that they're selling, but 30% seems like that might put them out of business.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Prices would go up quite a bit. It's non-physical goods. We should say that. So that's why Amazon doesn't get dinged. But so that was the main issue, is that Apple is enforcing this pretty strictly for all the little guys. And I think this move is basically just to say, hey, little guys, we're there for the little guys. It's just the big guys that have to pay.
Small businesses are the backbone of our global economy.
Exactly.
And the beating heart of innovation and opportunity in communities around the world. I mean, that's it. Capitalism is the beating heart of life.
Mm-hmm.
There you have it, baby.
So true.
Tim Cook.
I love it.
Tim Apple, Cook CEO. Did I get that right?
Tim Apple Cook CEO. That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, if we ever have class reunions again, I'll ask him next time we're walking down, playing golf over at the Washington Duke Hotel.
Yeah. So anyway, it's something we predicted. I think we really want to emphasize that.
We should get that other 15%.
That's at least 5 of it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, at least.
If we negotiated it down, where's our
just
cut?
one day? Just give me one day a year. Doesn't even have to be a good day.
Yeah.
It could be
You get your
a
birthday.
day where people don't buy stuff.
Get your birthday every day for the next 5 years. How about
5 years, one day, one day. I'm
One day?
done. Just give me one
What's
day
our daily revenue?
next year. Huh?
What's the App Store daily revenue?
I don't know. What's 50 billion divided by 365?
Is that what they made?
It's at least 50 billion.
Yeah, I would think
revenue.
it's like a lot, even more, like a lot. Well, no, you're probably right. It's probably like that.
Oh yeah, 50 billion in 2019. So
There you go. 50 billion for, I'd take that.
Now that is only in a single
That's like
day.
$1 billion
if it's
a
like
week,
averaged out.
'cause
It's
you gotta
like
take off the vacations.
$0.136 billion. So
Oh.
137 million.
yeah,
Gives a shit.
Yeah. I mean, you'd need a couple
no,
years of that. Really.
5% of that, Mike.
Oh, yeah, it's only 5% of that.
Oh,
don't get to keep all the revenue.
I'm still pretty upset here.
Yeah.
I'm still pretty upset with
talking
my $7
single-digit
million.
millions.
What are you going to do with $6.85 million? Be the world's poorest rich person?
Actually, that came up in a WhatsApp chat. This is not going to shine well on me, but somebody, they made some comment about, I forget what it was. I was like, yeah, I need this so that I can, retire, buy a ranch, and then I'll just get my helipad and I'll fly back in and out of San Francisco from wherever my ranch is. And the guy's like, I like that your step is from working full time to ranch with a helipad. I was like, listen, if it was just stop working, I could do that now.
Already
next
did
stop
it.
is helipad.
Yeah.
That's I'm pretty much there. We need the helipad to really quit things.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking
I
about.
agree. At least some sort of runway, seaplane, something like that.
Oh, yeah, seaplane. Yeah. If I was a bush
seaplane
hunter.
would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
That was one of the properties we looked at. The property said might be long enough for a seaplane.
If you're a good seaplane pilot and you're like, I'm going to be a pretty good
You're
seaplane
better
pilot.
than average.
I cooked that turkey really well in the future, so I'm definitely going to be a great seaplane pilot.
Yep.
Yep.
You'll find out. You'll find out if it's long enough, one way or the other.
Yep. Well, Sean, tell us more about COVID, because I don't know, this should just be the goddamn COVID podcast. That would be better. More people would listen to it.
Yeah.
So tell us about COVID.
We'll put hashtag COVID in it so people download it.
Yeah.
We've talked about these weird supply chain disruptions impacting markets due to COVID. And one that I saw recently in the Wall Street Journal, apparently used delivery boxes are becoming a hot commodity for the recycled paper market. People that make these boxes are struggling to get inputs because they used to rely heavily on office paper. So apparently now that we're all working from home, nobody's using office paper. I thought we were doing such a good job with all the people back when we used to work in offices, but please consider the environment before printing this email at the bottom of their emails that there wouldn't even be any waste office paper, but apparently there was enough to sustain an entire industry that then recycles those to make things like toilet paper, coffee cups, paper towels, cardboard boxes, all sorts of things that use recycled paper.
You'd think there'd still be a lot of recycled paper. I mean, the home paper, mail, boxes, right? They still recycle cardboard. So
that's why it's now becoming in high demand.
Oh, okay.
Because that's all that's like
That's
left.
it.
But the problem is, so office paper, remember like how perfect it is in office? You would have like the printer and it was just a white paper only, like special cardboard recycling bin. So they were getting this like pure printer paper coming right in there. Like that stuff's gold for recycling. The curbside stuff, which I always wondered about, our office environmental or our office sustainability coordinator back when I worked in San Francisco had posed a question and nobody had a great answer. When you mix, even like office recycling is fine because you actually have different bins for paper, but the home recycling, you just put all your recycling in one bin and you've got like printer paper looks nice, but then you throw like your empty beer can that's either maybe your kind and you rinse it out, or it's got beer or water in it. So you're staining that. You've got food containers. I've heard some people don't rinse off their metallic food containers
heard
before
that too.
recycling them. So that so these papers become much more contaminated. But I guess what's going on now is companies are willing to go further down into that lower quality material because there's nothing available. One thing that I learned though, I used to never recycle cardboard boxes pizza boxes because in San Francisco they said put it in the compost because it's soiled and they wanted clean paper. But these guys are now saying they're so desperate for paper, and with the current technology, a lot of places, I guess, check your local listings, but a lot of places can actually now recycle. They'll take the cardboard boxes and they'll be able to separate out the cheese and the grease and all that and still make something out of it.
If your next Amazon delivery box smells like pizza, are you really going to be that upset? I mean, I'd be okay with it.
Touché, Jeff Bezos. Well played.
Yeah, this is a weird one, I think. And it does make sense. And it is kind of funny to see. I mean, COVID's been so interesting, obviously mostly negative, but it's crazy to see like these cities clear, like Beijing clear up because no one's going to work for the day. And even stuff like this where it's like, hey, I get to print out all the things I want on an industrial strength, like, super fast printer for free. You know what? I'm not doing at home that. Because it's not free, and I have a shitty printer, and I hate it, and I can't connect it to my computer. And you know what? I'll just read on my iPad. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about that as I was coming downstairs today to record this podcast because you mentioned the lack of traffic, and I was like, is there anything that I'm going to miss when this pandemic is over? And I was like, I have to say, like, those first 2 weeks where there was nobody driving, like you couldn't run that experiment. And even if you could run that experiment and say to people, this is what it would be like, they'd be like, we don't believe you. Like, that's whatever, you screwed it up. And you'd be like, oh, I can basically see for 10 miles because nobody drove today. Yeah. That's effing crazy.
Like smog cleared up. I mean, smog like visibly cleared up in New York City, which isn't like the worst smoggy city in the world. The traffic, that whole thing is, amazing, just actually driving. But there's a lot of weird experiments we ran here that we didn't ever run. Printer paper. It's a weird one.
Yep.
Mike, you could have invested in cardboard. I remember, what were you going to buy? A bunch of zucchini and resell it?
Oh, no, pickles.
Wasn't there
it was pickles. It was a 50-pound box of pickles or something like that.
Yeah, a grocery delivery in San Francisco that was.
Those are close. It was cucumbers. I was so confused by what you guys. Now, in my garage, they probably would turn into pickles accidentally, but they were. Yes, it was a 50-pound box of cucumbers. You
could have, I know people were trying to move during the COVID uncertainty, move money into gold and other valuable, but things that take up a lot of space. So you've got to find out where to store it. If you could have gotten scrap mixed recycled paper. It was worth $0 early in the pandemic per ton. Yeah. Now it's worth $30 a ton. Talk about a penny stock there.
Let's see. How much room would a ton of paper, 2,000 pounds of paper? Let's think about that. That would be worth $30 to just hold on to that for I don't know, a year.
Totally worth it. Yep.
Yeah. This will be a quick side. No, maybe it will be quick and maybe it won't. But so, as you guys know, and as every single listener to the podcast knows, I've been reading this book called Why Nations Fail. And they had this little vignette about Uzbekistan where Uzbekistan, basically, they gained independence from the Soviet Union in 1991. There were 2,000 factory farms that were owned by the government when they were part of the Soviet Union. And great, government owns it, government runs it, everything's hunky-dory. Okay, hey, we're a free market now, sort of. So we're going to distribute the land to the people, except you have to grow cotton still, and you just have to give it to us, basically, for like 10% of the global price, because the government wanted to take all of the money from that cotton and just live corrupt lives with it.
Jesus.
So what happens
Live
immediately?
cushy
These guys are
cushy corrupt lives.
Yeah, exactly, correct. So all these farmers who now have these farms are like, okay, well, I'm not gonna buy or fix my cotton combine because I'm only getting 1/10 of the revenue for it. And so they went from having 90% of their cotton picked by combine and machinery to 0% within 5 years. And they're like, oh, well, that's not good. We got to figure out how to get this stuff out of the field. Well, children are cheap. And so they had children. Now, 2 months a year in Uzbekistan is harvest, and every day, every child, depending on their age, is responsible for 20 to 80 kilos worth of cotton picked.
Wow.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, that's
because cotton's not that heavy. So just to get 20 kilos,
really
44 pounds.
Yeah, what are the kids complaining about? It's not even that heavy.
Yeah, so you're out there all day. But yeah, it made me think of that because you're 30 pounds for a ton. It was the market price for cotton was $1.40 a kilo, and they were paying these kids 3 cents a kilo to pick it. It's great.
That seems like a story where people would use it as a criticism of socialism or communism.
Yeah,
but none of it. But none of it is socialism or communism. Nothing about that story.
Well, yeah, it is. But you're right. It's the authoritarian
oligarchy.
Yeah, but isn't it? I mean,
no.
Is there an example of a socialist or communist nation that isn't kind of that? That's the problem with it. No one has a problem
but there was
with
no
socialism.
example of a representative democracy in the modern times until America happened. So it's not
Good
there's
point.
examples of socialist structures that work.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Healthcare.
So I think that you just have to distinguish the two.
Well, I think that is the fear of socialism in this country, is that most socialist, the big ones, the USSR, China, it is a ruling class. That's what we're trying to avoid, and it just exacerbates the whole thing. There's a ruling class.
Well, it requires
this is why you guys should really read this book, though, because this is he separates. He's not obviously very nice to communism in general, but he separates the concept of what the political theory is from the execution, and shows that they have authoritarian regimes that try and extract the wealth from the population, regardless of kind of how they've come to power or what they say on the face of it. And so it happens in countries that pretend to be capitalist and democratic, as well as communist. Now, your point, Sean, socialism, this is what people would have this criticism of socialism. Ultimately, it is the same thing to say, well, somebody's not going to work hard or invest more time and energy if they're not going to be extracting the benefit from that, which and so that's you're just not getting that innovation, or what would they call
the question is where you define what you define as the how big is your net for the benefit that you're capturing, right? So that's American individualism. Everybody loves that because it's we can all be selfish individual economic actors looking to better ourselves, and it's not bad. It's better than it's better than
okay.
all.
It's
We all if there was a king that we all just had to give all our stuff to, that would suck. Hunger Games is better fighting it out than just. But there's an evolution. There's if you can understand that it's good for what you're doing isn't, you expand first from yourself to maybe people can understand a family unit where it's I actually care about this other person even though it's not me, and then the bigger you define it.
I think that you're exactly right, and that my general take on it is hey guys, capitalism, great. Democracy, pretty good. it's not over. We didn't hit the best possible imaginable yet. We can still think of ways to do this a little better. So maybe we should do that.
I do think those two
that should be okay.
I mean, I guess
it's an evolution.
To your original point, though, like those two things are also separated. Like you're saying like socialism is good because you're thinking of people other than yourself, right? So like, hey, how can we?
I'm saying socialism works if you think about it, people other than yourself.
Sure, but like, well, no, but that's why you want to move towards it, right? Like you don't want.
Yeah.
If we're all thinking of ourselves, it kind of works out because everyone has a chance. If we're thinking of more than ourselves, then like, okay, the rich people are giving more money to the poor people to get to a certain level of agreed upon like minimum whatever. You know, we're all giving to everyone. But the example from that story is if there's a set price and you can't get any more from it, we just settle for like, yeah, we'll just have people pick it. If there's not a set price and one guy next to you can get a higher, the same price for lower cost, well, shit. What did he do? He built a machine to do this. Well, fuck. All right, I'm gonna build a machine to do this better, and I'm gonna that competition.
And that's like the point of the book is that like that compounding of productivity improvements is what makes nations rich versus nations that are poor. Is like they just don't have the incentive structure to do things efficiently. It's not that they don't know how to do it. Like people
they could do it.
Are very aware there's a company called John Deere and they make big effing tractors and you can get more cotton out of the ground if you run one of those over it. It'll happen a lot faster. Like people get that concept, but they don't have the incentive to make that investment.
But all of those things could exist in any. You can have price fixing in capitalist in capitalist economies. You can have market prices in socialist regimes. Like it's.
Right. And to Jeff's point, God, we go down these roads. God, I can't believe I told this story. Sorry, guys. We were on track to end on time. But whatever. Let's just talk about something else.
Okay.
How about the Mets?
Yeah. The Mets.
Hey, I was excited. We're about to solve all the world's problems after we just solved Apple's App Store fee. Like,
right. Yeah.
we solved like governance of the world.
Well, I mean, you're saying socialism is the next thing, and maybe it is. You know, we got Biden coming in, a bunch of Democratic senators.
Yeah. No, that's the only point I'm making. People like hear things and they get so attached to like a misguided
what
concept.
They think the words mean and what they picture it from. The Hunt for Red October.
That's all.
Yeah.
Russian people are all terrible. I mean, I think we can say that. We don't get any listeners from there. So.
Yeah, but I didn't learn that from the Hunt for Red October.
If they're in America, they're fine, but Russian people in Russia.
Right. Terrible.
Yeah.
All right. That's I'm sure we'll address that on another episode as well, but we can move on today.
100% possible. Should we give recommendations?
Yeah. HBO Max. You guys love it?
Oh, the greatest search and like discovery. Just really well done.
The service is terrible, but the content has been fairly good. So I'm recommending this little short documentary series, How To, with John Wilson. It kind of reminds me of another show I recommended in the past, which now I'm forgetting the name of, so we'll just cut that part out.
Cut that in post.
How To with John Wilson. Each episode, I think there's like 5 or 6 episodes. He's a documentary filmmaker. It's a little bit quirky, a little bit strange. He goes around. It's mostly shot in New York. He's a New Yorker, so if you like New York, you'll appreciate the scenery. But they're just like weird little strange topics that he discusses. One is about scaffolding, and it's a mix of like actual history and information about why New York City is always covered in scaffolding.
God, that drives me nuts.
Ever been there?
Drives me nuts.
You'll definitely notice it.
I moved into my first apartment in New York City, and it was this beautiful, like, old building, like there are in New York. 3 months later, scaffolding went up. For 2 years, it was covered in scaffolding. I had to walk under it. It was just dark and terrible and blocking the windows.
They showed one person who that was their window, like that is completely blocked out in scaffolding. It's like she's living in this tiny apartment. And the sun is now gone.
Right, it's like, exactly.
I always think about that, and like it's one thing for a place like New York City where it's a bunch of independent owners doing different things, but college campuses, right? It's like, hey, you're having this college campus, you have used to have really nice buildings. You're putting a lot of investment into these things. I was in Villanova. There was not a single year that there wasn't a massive construction project on. It's like that's not a peaceful, idyllic campus. And it's just like, is it ever going to stop? And in which case, are you just working against yourselves? Because I can tell you that between like now and like 5 years ago, or like when I went to school 5 years ago, 12 years straight, there was a massive construction project on that campus.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And it's like, even the old buildings, they'll just be like, yeah, we're putting this new wing on it that's modern. So my whole, I think it was from my sophomore year on, the engineering quad, the place where I had all my classes basically, was completely torn up from construction. When I was graduating, literally the week before graduation, they removed the fences. And they were like, look, everyone, look how beautiful it is. Like, fuck you guys. Like, it was never like this.
Yeah. So, that was your reco, Sean?
Sorry, yeah. Joe Parra Talks With You. That's the show I couldn't remember, that it's similar to that. So it's a little bit quirky, a little bit weird.
I like that.
Check it out. It's not even because of all the construction, too. I won't give away the spoiler of why there's so many scaffolds, but he gets into that. But it's also just a funny, weird show.
Nice. My recommendation, I thought about, a bunch of products I could be recommending, a bunch of other things. Just couldn't come up with something. But I have been enjoying the last 2 days as we kind of, slow roll my way into this holiday season, or the holiday that just ended for you when you're listening to this. And I took the Monday and Tuesday before Thanksgiving and kind of just made them half days, or like didn't really rush to go downstairs and crank through a lot of stuff. It was a lot of soothing. It was soothing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, take the time to slow it down and enjoy whatever family increase or people you get to hang out with that you're going to get from this COVID thing, because we're going to have to go back to real life and wear pants at some point soon.
Oof, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Always good recommendation to just kind of, take it easy. Pull it back.
Read a 5-year-old a book, whether you want to or not.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jeff.
My recommendation is, now that we are getting into the holiday season, a good Christmas movie. If you haven't seen it, I think a legit good Christmas movie that is somewhat new and not one that everyone's
Bad
seen a
Santa.
Million times. Bad Santa, obviously. Fred Claus, amazing. So no, The Man Who Invented Christmas. It's about basically about the story where how the Christmas Carol got written. Charles Dickens. Yeah,
Charles Dickens.
It's a very well done, kind of fun story about the whole Christmas Carol book, and so yeah, I think it's good Christmas movie, and not Elf, not A Christmas Story, not one you've seen 1,000 times.
Been working on this poem about Trump, but I was workshopping it. I don't know if I should unveil it now or if I should save it for another episode when maybe I got a little better work in.
Hey, let's see
a
the
couple
evolution.
Yeah,
how
a couple
many
lines
times,
at you.
How many times? What's his name? Published that book about poetry.
Nope, I don't know. I have any idea what you're talking about.
Don't know a lot of poetry books, but here's the first 2 lines.
Walt Whitman.
I haven't. Oh, Walt.
He just kept republishing his book throughout his whole life on poetry and adding to it. So I say, build from it. Be like another American great poet.
All right, here's the first 2 lines. An underdog who knew how to fight had a story he wished told. His dreams imagined a house of white, but toilets made of gold.
I like that second line a lot.
Yeah, it has a Dickensian ring to it too.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I'm not sure if that's ionic pentameter, but I'm sure I did know that when I was in 9th grade.
Also, the cadence you were reading it sounds very much like a Christmas story type thing that you'd be reading to your kids. So, when you want to tell your kids a story about Trump, it's perfect.
Yeah. Oh, well, that was what my recommendation was going to be, and I forgot it was. There's this song on it. It's on my running mix called Happier, and it's been making me think about Trump recently, so maybe we can play out the episode with that. But it's kind because before he or whatever he is right now, conceited or not conceited, there's a bunch of lines in the song of
He's
like,
conceited.
I want you to be happier, so I have to go. But sometimes I think I can. It's just like I can't walk away, and
Perfect.
It's very Trumpian.
Yeah, let's do it. Copyright be damned.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say.
Shameless plugs.
Shameless plugs, TWPWK.com. And if you want, you can be our 9th subscriber on YouTube.
Nice. Bookcasecoffee.com and dashy-dash.com.
Thebubbleboard.com. Finance stuff. Check it out. It's free. All right. Talk to you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Next week. Bye.
Lately, I've been thinking, I want you to be happier. I want you to be happier. When the morning comes and we see what we've become. In the cold light of day, we're a flame in the wind, not the fire that we begun. Every argument, every word we can't take back. Cause with all that has happened, I think that we both know the way that the story ends. Then only for a minute I want to change my mind, cause this just don't feel right to me. I wanna raise your spirits, I want to see you smile, but no, that means I'll have to leave.
The Worst People We Know was recorded, edited, and produced in the Golden State, with a little bit of help from the Sunshine State.
Sunshine State. Gorgeous.
Thank you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe and find us on Twitter at TWPWK. Thanks.
Once I was 7 years old.
So this comes out the Monday after Thanksgiving.
I'm going to ask you guys how much turkey you gobbled up.
Perfect. Perfect.
Oh, like the old man wide wooden desk with like wood drawers and yeah. It's like I always think about that, like where the president of the United States with the Resolute desk, it's like a 200-year-old desk that belonged to Lincoln or something. I'd be like, yeah, can you guys drill a hole through the top of this? I need to get my cords are everywhere.
I want a monitor stand with like 2 arms off of it. It would look great.
Yeah.
All right. How ready you guys are?
Ready? Set. Go. Thanks for listening.